let me bring our next set of firebrands onto the stage. The second topic of the debate this afternoon is LBMA, UAE-GD and BIS accredited refiners should be exempted from bullion hallmarking. Is that a yes or a no? Who are the people who are for this and who are the people against this? Moderating this debate for us is Mr. Ketan Kothari, Director, Augmont. Let's hear it for him, please, as he joins us up here. Our panelists are, speaking for the topic are Mr. Anshuman Sharma, Head of Precious Metals, MEA and Indian Subcontinent, StoneX. Mr. Vinit Agarwal is also for the topic, Director and Head of Trading, the Group Vintage. Speaking against this line is Mr. James Jose, the Managing Director, CGR Metalloy, and Mr. Anil Kansara, CEO, Auro Metal Refinery Private Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, brace up. There is a hurricane coming your way, and I leave it in Mr. Ketan Kothari's hands.
Thank you so much. We had a very interesting debate. I think the whole industry has been debating about the duty concessions. And now we have one more interesting debate about hallmarking the already accredited bars that enter India. If Indian bars are being hallmarked, why not international bars? I'll just take you through a couple of slides just to show some statistics which will create the base about the debate. That's the import that India does. Obviously, majority of the imports are pure bars. And last year, we had an import of 800 tons of pure bars, which were mostly LBMA and DGD bars, followed by 258 tons of Dore bars. And obviously, we also have a recycling market, which is estimated to be around 114 tons. All these bars that are getting imported are either LBMA accredited or DGD accredited. Where are they coming from? More than half of the bars are coming from Switzerland, and almost 1/4 of the bars are coming from UAE. And then we have a few more other countries from where gold comes into India. So we have an interesting debate here. There are Anshuman and Vinit who are for the exemption of hallmarking LBMA bars. And James sir and Kansara sir are against it. I just want you all to speak about at least the two most important reasons why you are for, and then I'll move to that side. And I've been told by Srivatsav ji not to take any sides. So I'll have to be less aggressive as Chirag was very aggressive.
Firstly, thank you for the opportunity. I think the reason why we are for this topic is that we are talking about LBMA and UAE good delivery refineries, which have their own accreditation program, which is quite robust. And even before we go to that, now the question here is the hallmarking. What is the essence of hallmarking? Basically to determine the purity, the fineness, and the weight of the product. All the LBMA and UAE good delivery refineries do basically provide that. So the question is, do we need to do anything more than that? And especially in the case where all these refineries are not catering to just one market, but probably several continents around the world. And India is not a market which is consistent. So how do you expect to allocate inventory to be hallmarked for coming to India?
I'd like to add on to Anshuman's points. So just like Anshuman said, these are globally certified standards which are very widely accepted internationally in all the bullion markets. For us to ask them to specially put a BIS stamp before the import, now like Ketan showed, there is about 800 tons of bullion which comes into India. For them to operationally put a hallmark and send it to India, that will be a big operational challenge. Further, it will add on to the costs of these refiners. With the price of gold at $3,600 per ounce, these are very high costs if they have to store the gold for a longer time. The turnaround time between the order placed and when the shipment arrives, that will be much longer. Considering India's demands, which are very sporadic, and you can't really forecast these demands, I think it will be a big operational challenge to get these BIS hallmarked into the imported bars.
James sir and Kansara sir, their point is that operationally and cost-wise, it will be very, very inefficient.
Good afternoon. This question whether these three categories of bullion need to be hallmarked arises as and when mandatory hallmarking is implemented in the country. As of now, it is not mandatory. So these three categories of bars are sold in the country without any hallmarking. But there are certain restrictions and regulations in India for selling any product that is brought under a mandatory regime. Like we have around 500 or 600 products which are coming under the mandatory regime in India. And there is a gazette notification for that, and there is a 6 months grace period for implementing it. And the rule is that anything that is sold in India, which is coming under the mandatory regime, whether it is coming from a self-certified country or a regulated country or whichever entity it is, it has to comply with the rules and regulations of the country, and that the ISI mark for other products and the BIS mark for bullion or jewelry need to be embossed on the products before it is being sold in the country. So that also implies that any product coming from LBMA source or UAE source has to be hallmarked before it is being sold in the country. So that also implies that the manufacturer in Switzerland or UAE need to get a BIS license. That scheme is introduced in the country in year 2000, wherein the BIS officers go to that country, inspect their facilities and certify that particular manufacturer for being compliant with the Indian requirements. That is the existing rule. You cannot change it just for gold because there is nothing particular about gold. It's applicable for automotive tires, for toys, and so many products where BIS officers go and visit those factories and get that factory and give that factory a BIS license. I suggest that the same rule shall apply for bullion also, irrespective of whether it is coming from LBMA accredited refinery or DMCC accredited refinery. That is the general rule.
Thank you very much for inviting for this subject.
You'll have to keep the mic.
My basically idea, we started Indian good delivery somewhere in 2015. It has almost been 10 years, but even then we discriminate between what is imported gold and what is Indian good delivery. There's a price difference between the two. So we are basically saying that why Indian refineries are not considered to be as good as LBMA or Dubai good delivery. So the idea is basically why we say that yes, we remove that discrimination because BIS has introduced almost 22,000 products and services standard in the country now, which is some of the highest in the world. They want to protect every consumer from getting a product which is not up to the standard or service which is not up to the standard. So, but then it is labeled as made in India. Now we said what is coming from outside is not tested by anybody in India, still going to the market. And we find instances where some, I think probably substandard material definitely going to the market with the industry is basically tuned to that kind of, I think probably a lot of people have seen it, that any mark of imported mark or Indian mark also is getting duplicated in the market. So to protect or probably prevent that kind of situation to happen, we believe that hallmarking should be mandatory for every bar being sold in the country. The other way, the other point which I'm telling you in this favor, we are, last time, yesterday only we discussed, I think, we almost hallmarked about 12 crore pieces of jewelry in the country. Now then every piece of jewelry is mandatory to be hallmarked. Why not bullion? Because if you give a hallmark bullion, because everybody, we are already selling in imported bullion, we are doing a good delivery bullion also being distributed in the market. So every jewelry which actually, ultimately the bullion is getting, almost all of it is getting converted into the jewelry. So why not the bullion which goes to the jewelry market? And just now, just some time back also we heard from the previous panel, who is responsible for marking of bullion? The bullion which goes to the jeweler, and he says the jewelry fails in hallmarking. He said, no, the refinery has produced a wrong kind of bullion. To eliminate this kind of, I think, discrepancy between imported and Indian hallmarking or the good delivery, we believe that every product which comes into the country should be hallmarked, carry a BIS logo, and then whoever puts the BIS logo is responsible for that, unless it is tampered with. That's my viewpoint.
So, Vinit, what do you have to say about this fact? What Kansara ji is saying is that because it's an expensive material, all the more reason why there should be a standard around it. And what he's also mentioned about the counterfeit bars. So there are a lot of jewelers who end up getting counterfeit bars which are put with some LBMA refiners stamp. How do they do not have a wherewithal to go to those refiners, right? Because they are not located in India. How do you counter that particular problem?
No, so a couple of points. The LBMA certification itself, like we said, it's widely accepted, and they all come with a chain of custody. So in fact, they are actually traceable, wherein even if the consumer buys, say, a kilo bar or any amount of bar, and he finds that he wants to find what is the origin of it, he can go back to the shop he bought it from, who can go back to the wholesaler, who can go back to the nominated agency, who can go back to suppliers like us, and we can actually go back to the manufacturer or to the refinery.
Has there been any precedent where there have been some instances of purity mismatch which has been sorted out during
Yes, absolutely.
in India?
We've had, there's been one instance that I can recall, and this was not in India, this was a bar imported into the US, and it was a silver bar which had a slight purity mismatch. And we approached the LBMA refiner, and he in fact had it shipped at his own cost back to the refinery, and they changed the bar. This was within 7 days. He sent us a new bar first. He said, don't worry about the old bar, we'll have it picked up. So they are very forthcoming. That is why that LBMA accreditation is very important. Regarding the counterfeiting, I would like to tell Anilji that the counterfeiting can anyways take place. Even if you put a BIS hallmark, a person who has to counterfeit, he could even counterfeit a BIS hallmark. So that is something which anyways would not be able to be stopped.
I think basically, see, BIS has
You'll
introduced
give
a
the mic
system.
closer,
Yeah, BIS has introduced a system in hallmarking particularly. There's a 6-digit HUID. And so many pieces of every HUID is distinctly different from the other one. There's no duplication there. Somebody intentionally does it, we have to debate it separately. As a genuine business person or genuine refinery, what I produce and what I mark. And most of the consumers don't even know what is the difference between, I think they just recognize the BIS logo, right? That's what is now the concept of, somebody said, oh, this is LBMA. They don't know what is LBMA, what is business good delivery. And who consumes this gold is a manufacturer. The manufacturer once does and convert into that jewelry and somebody puts an hallmark on it. The story ends there. The consumer does not know how to approach BIS. BIS they can go because BIS already tells them, educates them. There are a number of seminars being held across the country now for the awareness program. I think BIS is doing something really wonderful. They have even within the colleges, they are holding classes now.
So Anshuman, just to add to that point, when the compulsory hallmarking for jewelry was being introduced, one of the biggest debate was who will be responsible if there is any problem in that jewelry. Will the distributor, like a wholesaler or a retailer, or the manufacturer? And for that, there was a lot of debate, and that's why you have the HUID system, which shows you the whole chain, and then obviously the manufacturer is responsible for this. In Vinit's example, when he said obviously the LBMA refinery is responsible, but legally, there are still restrictions on an Indian to challenge any international refinery if they are not ready to replace, for example. Whereas here, the manufacturer who is in India is like he can go to jail also, right? For counterfeiting anything, or something, providing something which is not as per standard. So how do you deal with that situation, especially because it's a large amount of gold that's coming in? Yes, there is one thing that you said that there have not been too many incidences of LBMA bars or DGD bars being challenged with purity or weight. But going forward now that HUID is there for jewelry, do you think that is something that is needed in the bars as well, from the viewpoint of what he just said?
And Ketan, just one more point which I want to, the Indian good delivery standard basically, or the refineries which follow them, we have a sort of a punchline for everybody. We do not have any negative tolerance on weight. We do not have any negative tolerance on purity. So this assurance comes from us and goes to the customer who purchases gold, or probably we deliver to the manufacturer, or it goes to the retailer. So far as the small bars and coins are concerned, we certify actually that there's always an HUID available there. So I think probably the system which is now being implemented in India is definitely much, much better than what is coming in India without detection of any purity. They have a certificate. Somebody, I don't say LBMA, we don't compare ourselves. They are a benchmark, right? We don't say everybody is doing wrong, but how do we protect every gram of gold going to the customer is certified by a local agency which is responsible.
Yeah, Anshuman?
Okay, so I'll just start with the last point that Anilji was mentioning. So one thing is for clear that the LBMA or UAE Good Delivery in terms of the purity of the bars or the weight of the bars is absolutely in standard with what is expected. Second thing is to understand is that the examples that you're giving about jewelry and the local refiners is a different case than what we should have to look at the approach from a different perspective, because as we saw the slide at the beginning, India is a net importer of gold, right? So when we are importing the gold, who are we distributing it to? It's the banks, it's the nominated agencies, right? And ultimately what's happening with that gold? Most of it is getting converted into jewelry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the question of even a BIS hallmark at that stage, by the time it reaches to the consumer is gone, because there's no BIS hallmark on it. Now it's already melted in the form of gold. So what value does it add?
No, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Sorry, James, 1 minute. See, whatever gold comes inside a country or goes out of the refinery gets
You'll have to keep the
normally
mic
converted into a value-added product. Right? Once it is converted into a product, the originality of the material which is being used for manufacture is gone.
But Kansara ji, I have a point where I want to ask Anshuman, you supply to so many countries across the world. Are there any countries which ask the LBMA refineries to do a double checking or additional checks, like how BIS is there in India? Are there any other countries in the world where you supply where they have to do one more mandatory check, or they check the LBMA refineries in terms of standards?
To the best of my knowledge, none. And in fact, when the central banks of the world are buying LBMA bars,
Okay.
and they are accepting them, and also, but my point is, again, I'll just stress on the last point that I was trying to say, is that if the end consumer is going to use the product that is coming in as the form it is, then it makes sense. But if you are taking it for manufacturing or for something else, the form is destroyed, then there is no point of that hallmarking. What essentially LBMA or a UAE Good Delivery gives the comfort is the fact that who is importing the metal? It's the banks. The banks are responsible participants of this business, and they also have a reputation to live into. So first of all, the onus is on them that they ensure that they're importing from suppliers who are recognized, and importing type of metal which is proper as per the accreditation. The second thing is that when they are distributing to their clients, they have a KYC on those clients, they know who they are dealing with. Ultimately, if those clients are going to sell down to the jewelry manufacturers and cut them and break them and send it out, there is no way you can trace it out. So ultimately, the onus comes on the finished product, which you are rightly saying, should be at the jewelry side. But it cannot be on the bar.
I would like to add that the Indian hallmarking is slightly more stricter or slightly different from the hallmarking or certification by LBMA and UAD. LBMA and Dubai Good Delivery, they are certifying the refinery. They are not certifying or hallmarking the bar.
Okay.
Whereas in India, the BIS is giving license to a refinery. In addition to that, the BIS logo is printed on each and every bar with the traceability. And in addition to the traceability of the bar, the Indian refineries are maintaining a source traceability for the origin of the doré, because we have the 5 conditions of doré import. Apart from that, we have good delivery bars for 100 grams and 1 kilo, which is not there for LBMA and Dubai Good Delivery, because they are certifying or they are regulating the refineries. Whereas in India, the BIS is regulating the good delivery bars of 100 grams and 1 kilo. That gives additional assurance to the consumer, whether it is a jeweler or end consumer. We know that the shelf life of a kilo bar is hardly 4 or 5 hours. It gets melted. But still, till that time, because especially in the Indian context, where there are a lot of duplicate bars with the names of foreign refineries are available, this particular serial number, logo of the BIS and the 5 parameters give excellent traceability and assurance for the purity of the gold. And additionally, as he said, only the Indian good delivery for 100 gram and 1 kilo gives positive tolerance. There shall not be any negative tolerance for purity.
James, sir, I have one more question. When you said that the BIS India can actually do the accreditation of the international refineries, they go and check. Is there a precedent like that in any other industry?
Not for refineries, because it is not made mandatory for refineries.
Okay.
For example, automotive tires, toy manufacturers, any product that is brought under mandatory regime in India, And if a product has to be imported, the BIS officer has to go abroad and give a license for that factory. Then only they can export it to India.
Vinit, what the point
The same
here
thing
is,
shall be applicable for bullion also.
Vinit, the point here is that if it's a genuine LBMA bar, you can trace it. That's fine, what you said. But say for example, if it's a counterfeit LBMA bar, where the purity is not accurate, the customer who is buying it, they will be having a problem. Now, if they are BIS hallmark, the jeweler or the customer would know that the BIS hallmark also has to be there, or the HUID, which he can always check on the app. How do you counter that problem?
No,
By
see-
not hallmarking an LBMA bar.
See, for not allowing counterfeiting, that is a difficult argument because counterfeit can
No,
be
so
done
what
by
happens
anyone.
is now a lot of these bars have slightly lesser purity, and then people are just accepting it because they can do nothing about it. Because even though they have bought it through some brokers and all, they don't get the right response, and they don't have a trace as to who exactly is responsible. Because the dealers may say that, it just comes from the imported source, we can't do anything.
No, see, all the certified refineries have a serial number on the bars. And you can actually go back, like I said, to the bank or to
So
the...
in counterfeit bar, for example, the serial number will also be wrong. So how do you deal with that?
You cannot argue with counterfeiting. See, if someone has to counterfeit something, that can... Anyways, you cannot argue with that. Anything can be counterfeited. But the certified bars themselves have a serial number which can be traced. Some refineries may have an online portal. Some are not very refined. They may not have an online portal. But offline, you can always have it traced.
Sir, just one moment. Anshuman ji, which is LBMA good delivery bar is 12.5 kg or 1 kilo? The bars which come in 100 grams, 1 kilogram bar, are they good delivery bars by definition?
No, they are not.
It is coming from a good delivery refinery.
But they are produced by refineries which are audited on a regular basis and have to follow the same LBMA guidelines.
Okay.
So it doesn't take away the responsibility from them.
So it is basically said that it has been produced or manufactured by a good delivery refinery, but they are not good delivery bars.
No, they are not. But the point is, whether they are good delivery or not good delivery is not the point here. The point here is that if you are producing a bar where you are already responsible and accountable, and you are more experienced than me in this field, you understand
okay.
that all these LBMA refineries and UAE good deliveries have to go through a lot of long, cumbersome process to keep their status.
Yeah.
There are audits which are happening regularly. There are regular checks on them, and plus the brand and the reputation is more important. If you are dealing with the CME tomorrow, you're dealing with the central banks, with the ETFs, there is no way you can take it lightly.
Yes, it's
We
so
fully,
again
we
coming
fully
back to the-
appreciate that. What we mean to say is that in addition to all these parameters, that's all there for Indian refineries also. Additionally, the Indian bullion bars are good delivery specified, even the dimensions, everything is specified for 100 grams and 1 kilo, and that carries the logo of the BS. And additionally, a serial number which is traceable to the BS portal. That gives additional guarantee. That's all what I'm saying.
So I understand that, but I think the larger perspective that we are missing out here, in my opinion, by the way, on your kilobar question, it is now deliverable on COMEX. So it again answers your question there, that if COMEX can accept those deliveries, there should be no reason to worry. But I think the point here is that when suppliers are sourcing metal to trade, most of us are not trading for one country. We are trading across the globe. The refineries are producing metal to supply around the world. To suddenly come up, because India's demand, as we mentioned earlier, is very sporadic. It's not a regular business now. And also you have to appreciate the fact that if two countries can get into a CEPA agreement on a particular accreditation of that country, that itself means that both countries have, and their regulators have done that due diligence to ensure that that is there. Wherever it was questionable, those trades have stopped anyway.
So I'll just intervene here because we just have 1.5 minutes left. What I understand from your point and your points is that it's going to be cumbersome and it will add to cost. That is the biggest challenge. Otherwise, you don't see any other challenge per se. The main problem is that it will increase operational headaches and also increase costs.
Doesn't
for
add
you-
any value.
And there is no value added. And according to James sir and Kansara sir, that obviously if it's the standard hallmarking system, then every consumer will be protected and everyone will be at par, whether it's an Indian refinery or it's an international refinery. I think we leave it to the audience if they have any questions, because we'll never be able to conclude as to who is a... And we have one question for the audience. What
Sir,
do the
that's
audience
the topic
think
of
about
the
this?
debate.
Yeah, can you please put in your answers?
The
Yes or no?
results on Slido, everyone please scan.
Yeah. Should LBMA, UAE-GD and BIS accredited refiners be exempted from bullion hallmarking? Amar Singh ji, aapka bhi dijiye vote. They should be exempted. That's what majority of them are saying. At least 2/3 of them. Yeah. Question.
I'd like to make a statement followed by a couple of questions. Statement which I want to make is what Anil Kansara started with. Is it the process or the stamp, which is more important? For instance, UAE as a market, there is no hallmarking on the jewelry products. For those who have dealt with the UAE market knows, there is no single product in the UAE market, jewelry market, which is below purity. It never happens because there is a system in place. There is no hallmarking, but there is a system in place. So even though UAE is a small manufacturer, all majority, maybe more than 70% of jewelry which is sold in UAE is produced in India, there is no problem there because there is a system in place. So even without putting a stamp, it can be achieved. That's my statement. I have two questions. One is, James have told the certification is not for the product. That's not the case with UAE Good Delivery. All the products which are certified, it's the product itself along with the refinery. So you can see the listing of products, 100 gram, 995 1 kilo, 491 kilo. There is a listing. And UAE does not certify outside of that. Yeah, refiners can produce other products. There is no issues. But whatever is coming, especially to India, the products are certified. It's not just the refinery. I just wanted to make that correction.
Is there any specification for the dimensions of the bar? 100 gram and 1 kilo in UAE Good Delivery list?
Yeah, they have.
Is there any product size specified?
No, size is not specified.
That is the difference. That is the difference.
James, you was talking about tires.
Yeah.
India import a lot of latex and rubber. Is it hallmarked?
It is not coming under mandatory regime. Only those products that is gazette notified by the government of India to under mandatory regime is need to be certified before coming into India. Okay. Latex is not covered. Toys are covered. Certain type of footwear is covered. Certain items.
No, as Anshuman said, the kilobars are coming as a raw material for manufacturing.
No,
So-
the government is treating it as a finished product.
Okay, thank you.
And one more thing, just to add to your point, whereas in India, the good delivery norms are very strict in terms of size, thickness, length, then positive tolerance, no negative tolerance for purity, no negative tolerance for weight, serial, so many details. I don't want to go into the details.
Most of the gold that is imported into the country is on a consignment model. And the ownership is with the supplier. At any point of time, they can take back that metal. Now, if you're asking these people to hallmark it with BIS, how can they take back the metal?
That's a challenge. I do understand. That's a challenge.
Absolutely. And I was just, last point I want to add, seeing both of them sitting in the front, is that India is now promoting free zones. So we have suppliers who are bringing in metal here, keeping it in the free zones and supplying to the mainland as and when required. And when not required, rerouting that metal to another part of the world. If we have BIS marks on that, then that effort is gone waste. It has to go back to the refinery to melt. So that is, again, a very commercial
I
and
think
viable thing.
just to conclude, I feel everyone would have loved to have a standardized system, if not for those operational inefficiencies. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anshuman, Vinit, Kansara ji, and James ji.